Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for hanging around in the graveyard shift, as we are, the penultimate presenter, I think I am. So I'm here to tell you, convince investors why they should have some exposure to the emerging Mongolian gas industry, and why TMK is that company. Been a lot of aeroplanes lately. This is a bit like their safety message. They're all the same. I'm sure once you've read them once, that's all you need to know. I'll let you read that at your leisure. Just with regards to what is the opportunity with TMK? Look, we've got a huge resource in Mongolia we've discovered over the last couple of years, and we're in the process of appraising that discovery with the pilot well. We've just recently had a big funding round, raised about $4.5 million in various stages, and that has delivered enough funding for us to prove commerciality of the resource that we've discovered in the recent years. One of the big highlights I think that's come out of that is that we've introduced a significant high net worth investor who's actually went to Mongolia himself on his own money, took the trip down to our site, which is not an easy task, and he's come back and basically very invested, gets it, understands the demand, as Aitan was referring to, in South Asia. There is huge demand. Mongolia is a bit like Western Australia, where I'm from. It's a huge resources industry there, and they are all desperately short of energy, coal being the only source of energy, or electricity imported from China. I won't go through all the rest of them, but basically we have a huge project on our hands here, and an immediate market for the gas being power generation in the first instance, but obviously China on our doorstep. Just some other things we've just initiated in recent times is some changes in management, which I'll get to, but part of that is just refining the business a little bit, some material cost savings being driven into the business, and also operational efficiencies. It's been a pretty tough road for TMK over the last 12 months or so, for a number of reasons. I mean, the market's changed a little bit in general, but we did also have our joint venture partner was taken over by Strike Energy, I think we presented yesterday, and that required us essentially to buy back 100% of the interest through a transaction we did with Talon. That's the Talon transaction we're referring to there. And unfortunately, due to the nature of that transaction, we did have a fair bit of funds selling out of TMK, who had acquired shares through that transaction, probably just because we didn't meet their investment mandate. So we are at rock bottom on the share price, and the corollary of that is the project is probably at its most advanced stage, or it is at the most advanced stage, and has been going from strength to strength. So look, at the moment we're cheap, 0.002 of a cent, a sub $20 million market cap, but as I said, funded to get through to the final proof of concept, which is getting commercial rates of gas out of the coal seams. I'll go into more detail of that in a minute. Yeah, sorry. So just on our board of management, I normally wouldn't spend much time on this, but we have had a bit of a change. I've been with the company since pretty much it was listed. And I've taken on the CEO role from 1 July. Brendan Stats, who was one of the founders of the company, he was the CEO up till 30 June, but he's still there, and he stepped back to become more of an operations guy, and he's looking after the operations in Mongolia and the drilling that we've just completed. We have a pretty handsome board, and John Warburton, our chairman, is around here. He's on the board of Empire Energy, and has been on the board of other coal seam gas producers, Senex Energy in the past, which was taken over by Hancock and POSCO. Brett Lawrence is a non-executive director, also stepped up to the plate in recent times, and has, I think it would be very rare for a non-executive director to be sitting on the rig monitoring operations for many companies, but he was doing that out in Mongolia and playing tag team with Brendan. Also, from a local team perspective, we got Gemma on the board. She's Mongolian. She's actually a relation to our major shareholder, but she also, Western educated, understands the scene in Mongolia and points us in the right direction as we need it. and also just the local country manager in Naran Utral, as again, Western educated, understands capital markets, was actually on the head of the Mongolian Stock Exchange, which is relatively small but still an important role, and he sort of understands the capital markets. I'll just play this video and talk to it. I don't have any sound, which is good based on one of the previous presenters. But this is what's been going on site in the last month or so. I mean, it's not a small operation to drill 3 wells in the desert in Mongolia, in the South Gobi. And Major Drilling, who are a Canadian-listed company and probably the most active and professional outfit in Mongolia, did a fantastic job for us, essentially a turnkey contract for 3 wells. You can see some of the gas flares there coming off. I mean, that's not indicative of long-term at this stage, but that certainly, there is gas in the coals and it is coming out of the ground. Sorry, my screen's a bit delayed here. So we've just completed 3 wells. We're completed the drilling, and we're now currently putting the pumps in place and the tubing, and then that will be done in sort of the next week or so, tying them into the facilities that we already have in at the site, and then putting them on production probably starting early December. So just where we are, we're right down in the South Gobi Desert near the Chinese border. We're actually in an area where there's 5 operating coal mines, and they're all going, as Aidan was referring to before, they're all going full tilt at the moment, producing as much coal as they possibly can. It all goes over the border into China. You go down to the border crossing, which I did last time I was there, and there's a 25 kilometre row of trucks to get across the border. Take 3 days. Labour's cheap in Mongolia, so I guess they don't worry too much about that, but it is quite astounding, the amount of coal going over the border to China. That border crossing is a sealed road from our site, and is obviously the access route to China. The other big operations in Mongolia that people are probably aware of is Rio Tinto's Oyu Tolgoi mine, which is the yellow dot on the map there, and then Tavan Tolgoi is the biggest coal mine in Mongolia, primarily state-owned, and that's the other mine, coal mine there on the map. So just immediately, what we've been doing. A month or 2 ago, it was a tough market. We had to make a decision on our work program, and basically we made the commitment to drill 3 additional wells, which are all essentially infill wells from the 3 we drilled last year, and I'll get to a bit more detail of that. But we're basically now fully funded, as I said, to get through to what we hope is the commercial production rates, which we're targeting around 31 March next year. We're hoping it probably will be before that. We'll get an indication of result, but these things do take time, and it's very hard to predict exactly when it will be. Look, I won't go through these in detail. This is the geologists like this, but basically the deposit is right up there in world standards with sort of quality and size, and certainly has all the right attributes to be a major producing gas field. As part of that, the contingent resource that we booked from the initial exploration wells, it is a large number. You can't really, with a market cap sub 20 million, it's not really relevant what the numbers are, because it's a several $billion resource if it goes to full production. I mean, just what we've done over the last, again, I won't dwell on this too long, last 12 months since we had the first 3 wells on production, we've got some pretty interesting early signs with gas flows coming through. There's the usual operational challenges in the early days. We had a couple of pumps go down, we replaced the pumps, cleaned them out, put them back on, but pretty much it's been running seamlessly for the last 12 to 15 months, and the gas rates have been stable, but the water rate has come down to a level where we got to an equilibrium, but we weren't below the critical desorption pressure. So that, after some technical review, and some of the people in the audience here are part of that, we determined that the best thing to do was to basically drill more wells. So that was pretty much where we've been from the last year and this year. 2023 we drilled 3 wells, 2024 we've drilled another 3 wells, and I'll just skip that one, go straight to this. So these are the 3 wells we drilled as part of the program this year and just completed. You can see the green wells here are, I think that actually is the pointer, here we go. The green wells are the wells we drilled last year, and the red wells are essentially infill wells. The coal seam in Mongolia we're chasing is this upper coal seam. The lower coal seam also has huge potential, but with the initial exploration wells, the permeability was better in the upper coal seam, and there's enough gas in here for us to, the low-hanging fruit, if you like, is to start at this point. But ultimately, we will investigate the potential of the deeper coal seam. Just in relation to our work program this year, getting environmental approvals for drilling. In Mongolia, they have this thing called a DEIA, which is an environmental approval for 5 years. We took a while for us to get that. We got that in early July, and that's at that point we could commit to the program. So a bit of design work, tendering of the contracts. It's a PSC arrangement, so there are some regulations you need to follow there. That got to the point where we awarded the drilling contract, secured the additional funding, and now we've just had the latest green tick is drilling of the wells, commissioning the wells shortly, and then we'll commence the production of those wells. This is just an indicative conceptual field development plan. So where do we go from here? Well, the obvious thing to do is to just use the current pilot wells, which are all very closely spaced to generate power. So power generation is obviously number one, but number two is looking a longer term in this scenario. It's probably a combination of power generation and potentially mini LNG. I've just come back came directly to Noosa from China, and these things are modular. They're relatively cheap. There's companies there that do it. Mongolia is not that far from China, obviously, so it's relatively easy to get the stuff into the country. And so I see that as sort of one of the big value adds that can be delivered for TMK in this project. So from the domestic supply opportunity, as I said, it is really about power generation in Mongolia and supplying power to remote mine sites and also to the general Mongolian community. Look, it's unlikely, I think, there'll ever be a gas distribution system in Mongolia. The market's probably not big enough to justify that, but certainly mini LNG and transporting gas around the country that way or through power lines is the way to go. But the ultimate prize is, of course, the China supply opportunity, and everyone's sort of well aware of the demand in China is constantly on the rise for power. I mean, they do like. I mean, gas is a cleaner fuel than coal, which is obviously a huge part of the power equation in China. But being next door, it is the obvious market for where a very large project would be delivered to. So just operating in Mongolia, I mean, it's an interesting country. It's obviously come out of Russia in the last 30 years or so, but it is an emerging economy. It is a true democracy. It obviously has had its challenges in the early years, but I think it is gaining stride now and really sort of becoming a very modern, if you like, economy very quickly. The development in the country is happening very quickly. The very young population. Mongolia itself, UB itself, Ulaanbaatar, the capital, is one of the world's most polluted capital cities. It's all the power comes from burning coal in old Russian power stations. So there is a real incentive for not only the government but also the population to clean up the city. And again, I think gas is going to come into that mix as part of the future equation for Mongolia. So that's it for TMK. But look, it's a very exciting time. As I said, we've now fully funded through to demonstrating the commercial potential of the enormous resource we've discovered, and we're in the sort of lap of the rock gods to some degree over the next little while. But I think we'll, with these additional wells and the additional capacity that we now have in place, we should be getting there fairly soon. Thank you very much.